I just wanted to do this really quickly to show you. I just did this for fun, really. I love Final Fantasy, as you guys may know, and I find it's a good exercise, a good ear training exercise to try to pick apart the original composition, just rewrite it for or arrange it for like orchestral libraries. So for this, I'm using the new Spitfire. I'm using the Spitfire Symphonic Strings library, which is awesome, and they just came out with the Spitfire Symphonic Woodwinds library. I was using Berlin Woodwinds, which was my normal go-to library, but I was able to switch it up pretty quickly at the last minute, and that sounds awesome. So I'll show you those more in depth, but if you guys want, let's just kick this off with a little playthrough. What I was saying is, since I'm streaming it and also recording it, there's a chance that there might be some hiccups. This normally runs fine, but if there are little hiccups, that's why. I apologize in advance. Anyways, here we go. It just sort of fades out there, because it would just loop forever. So as you guys can see, it's kind of what you would expect. I kind of took some liberties with this one section here. I just wanted to throw something in for fun. But yeah, it's pretty straightforward. So if there are any questions right off the bat, I'll see if there's anything I can answer. But otherwise, let's see, is there an easier way to see more than 4 comments? Maybe if I do it like this. There we go. But why don't I just start out by going over the programs I use for this. So I mean, this is why I love having a lot of libraries, and I have a lot of libraries for this. As you can see, like, these are the things that I have right now. I've amassed quite a few, and I'm a big fan of the Spitfire stuff. They recorded in this hall that just sounds so awesome. So like, if you listen to the flutes on this this library just by itself, like, it's really just gorgeous. And that reverb that you're hearing there is just, that's the natural reverb of the hall. You have like many sort of mics that you can choose from. Right now I'm using the tree mics just to keep it simple. But these strings are recorded in the exact same hall. And these are all recorded sort of where they would be situated, in situ, as they say. So you don't have to pan anything, and it all sort of blends very nicely together. So like these would be the violin 1 legato patch. Yeah, like it just sounds fantastic. Now there's a few ways to approach this. I think I did a video earlier sort of demonstrating how I would go about using expression maps to have all these different articulations, because right here I have different tracks. Like this is the spiccato, this is legato, these are tremolo, and these are measured tremolos. They're actually matched to the tempo, because the project tempo is 178, and these are at 180, so they'll work. But for this, I figured I'd just divide it out into just the patches I need, so you have a visual representation of everything. And if we sort of just listen to just the strings by themselves, like this is how it sounds here. So you can sort of see what I'm doing there. And I actually tried to keep it as close to the original as possible. Obviously, I'm basing it off of MIDI or whatever instruments Nobuo was using at the time. But, you know, they're not always the most realistic approximations of what they're supposed to be. So I had to, there was a bit of guesswork and a little bit of leeway there, but I kind of experimented with a few different things. But one of the things that I realized that was really cool was what I think we would all think of as the theme in this section here. That rising theme there. It's actually split across the section, so it actually starts out exclusively on the brass. Kind of hangs on that note, and then it transfers it to the strings. And then this, I actually put the strings in, but truthfully, it was just the winds that have it. And there you can actually hear the wind solo. Again, they're just so pretty. Oops. And again, this is sort of guesswork here. I have those harmonizing with the clarinets and the oboe section, but I don't really know what was really intended. So I just kind of played around until it sounded good. Here you have this trade-off. And on the strings, that section. And then on the brass. I decided to use Cinebrass for this, which is like kind of one of the go-to brass libraries. I mean, like this is anyone who does any scoring stuff or who's just into sort of orchestral libraries probably has Cinebrass, because it's been kind of the standard for brass. I have this Spitfire symphonic brass, which is really good, but I've been using that quite a bit lately, and I just wanted to play around with this a bit. And it's really, it sounds great. you kind of see like how it can be a bit quirky programming, and that's why it would be a bit difficult to take this MIDI and transfer it to Spitfire Brass. But it does sound really good, especially in context. I think when you solo it, that's when it starts to sound, you know, the fourth wall gets broken a little bit there. But in context, it always sounds great. But these strings and wind solo just sound like I really think this is like a new level of sampling for libraries. It makes me very excited to see like how other companies will respond to these, because now that stuff like this is out, other companies are going to have to step up their game a little bit, and it'll just mean more awesome libraries for everyone. All right, let's take a look at some questions, because I have been ignoring the feed completely. How much time did I put into this? I worked on this a couple nights instead of sleeping. So I don't know, it might have taken like probably about 6 hours total to like transcribe everything. Like that's really what took a lot of time, was sort of building this template from scratch and sort of transcribing it as I go and trying to figure out what instrument should be playing what. And then there were some things that were like kind of, you know, it's a little harder to pick out on the spot. Like, is that a chord? Is that another line that's sort of interacting? There's a lot of stuff that now I hear very differently after separating it out this way. Like, and a good example, like I was saying before, is how that rising line on this part, it's like a trade-off between the instruments, but in your head you kind of think it's one instrument doing the whole line. Really, really cool. That's something that I learned doing that, which I'm probably gonna have to integrate into my writing, because it really allows all the sections to kind of shine for a little bit. But then after that, so after that initial work, a lot of it was just what I call finessing, because, you know, you really get the most out of these libraries by putting a lot of work into just trying to make it sound as realistic as possible by like editing, you know, whether it's the velocity or the CC1, which is usually the volume, you know, of all these instruments, and they all react a little bit differently. But as you can see, there's a lot of MIDI. There's a lot of MIDI going on, and we haven't even talked about the percussion, which is Action Strikes, which is a native instruments library. It comes with Contact, but I don't know, it just works. It sounds great, but there's a lot of MIDI going on here, as you can see. So, you know, that's what it looks like. But yeah. So that part, I probably spent like a few more hours just finessing stuff and experimenting with different patches and just trying to get it to sound as realistic as possible. I'd say there's probably still a little bit of work left there, but I figured it was good enough to show you guys on the stream. All right. Any MIDI keyboards or controller you recommend? So I use the Complete Control S61 by Native Instruments. I've gotten this question a few times. I really just like it because the key bed is the best. I'll say it's actually pretty Spartan when it comes to features, and it's expensive. So if you want features on a keyboard and sliders and all that, and pads and cool stuff, there's definitely better ways to go, in my opinion. I think it's a company called Nectar. They make the Panorama, I think it's what it's called, and that has like a ton of stuff and it looks really good. But the key bed is what sold me on this, and I'm really picky about that. Just, it's like the best feeling key bed on any keyboard, and that's why I went for it. And kind of, if I need more sliders, I'll just get a secondary controller, because I just really like the way this keyboard feels. How do you route the MIDI sound to groups and add effects and other plugins? Okay, that's a good question. So I've kind of color coded everything here. Like I'm using Cubase 9 for those of you who don't know, and that just came out. And what they did was really cool. Like they'll kind of let you see everything in one window. So I have a basic fader overview of my mixer. I can also see my inserts here if I want, and you can change the view on this a little bit. You can I kind of have it so everything fits, so you can zoom and whatever. But I have my instruments here to the side, and I'm using instrument tracks, which are such a good invention, because they're both a MIDI track and an audio track at the same time, so it just saves you a lot of space. So like this is my violin 1 legato, which I also have my other articulations, the spiccato and the tremolo. Anything that's violin 1 goes to that fader now. And then these are routed out to groups. So I have my Spitfire Symphonic Strings SSS right here, and that's what's getting processed. And it looks like the only thing I have on it is QL spaces, just for a little bit more room. I thought I had processing going on. I thought I had EQ on that, but I guess I don't. What I generally find with a lot of these libraries, so you'll see on the master bus, so I've got Pro Q2. I always find that they tend to have a lot of like 750, 800 kind of honkiness or whatever that you'd call that frequency, but taking that down always makes it sound a little bit nicer and less boxy, and you can safely do a high shelf. Like I'm doing like quite a substantial set of high shelves here. I'm taking out like a 200 boxiness here, so that's on everything, and I think those are generally good things to do. Obviously got my high pass there. That's just to trim it, just so I didn't have to like gain stage everything to the compressor. But I'm using this is it's the Slate SSL compressor. I use it just pretty much exclusively for my bus compression because it's really, really good. And I usually put the high pass filter just so it ignores the really low hits and doesn't compress those. It just kind of, the thing with this kind of stuff is you don't want to go too nuts with the compression. And then trusty Pro L in transparent mode as my limiter, and to bring it up to volume, because I don't know, because Pro L just works. It's just easy and it works. Beyond that, like it looks like I've got QL spaces on all of this stuff. Okay, great. And I seem to have put the same hall for everything. So you're hearing a bit of so I was lying earlier, you were hearing a bit of this hall as well. But that's just to make it sound a little bit more roomy rather than having to load up more mics and take up more RAM. And this is a convolution reverb by East West. It's really, really awesome. And as you can see here, they have all the details on how they captured these actual halls. So it's great. And since I put everything in the same hall, it sounds fairly consistent there. Hit play. So there are people who haven't heard this yet. We're not going to play the whole thing because I'm going to upload this to YouTube after the fact. So you guys can hear it in even better quality there. And maybe what I'll do is I'll play it once again at the end of this stream. But I'm just going to take a few more questions now. How does Spitfire sound in comparison to Cinebrass? I could open that up. I could also open up some patches on this. You know what? Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll take a look. Do you guys want to see some patches on these Spitfire strings? What I'll do is I'll just open up a new instance so you guys can see this. It doesn't do it the way I like there. There we go. Yeah, you can check out some of these. So this is pretty cool. They have just these general patches here with all these. So for example, like flutes, and A2 means there's 2 flutes playing there. So that's the legato patch, and then it's just got like sort of the ones they imagine would be the most popular, like long articulation. And I've got on my controller, I've got the dynamics and vibratos set mapped to my 2 sliders, so very easy to control those. I think that's gorgeous sounding flutes there. Flutter, harmonics. That's kind of a interesting patch. Got your marcato, which is just long and strong attack on that. Tenuto, which is slightly shorter, and then your staccato. And trills. and you're a major. So all the different instruments here have their own sort of set of articulations. They've got way more articulations. Like if you want to look at how many there actually are, you can go to the individual articulations page and just see everything that they have. But for the basic patches, I think it's a wide enough palette of sounds there to where you can get started, and you can change those with key switching or CC controls. Again, I'm doing it a little bit differently just because for this I decided to have visual representation of each articulation. So one articulation, one track, and that's just down to whatever you want to do. The oboes sound really good on this one. Sorry, I shouldn't even have tried. It's a long flutter. Two longs there. I guess they don't have as many articulations for that. And the clarinets here. Let's take a look. Yeah, it sounds great. I'm really digging that. Anyways, that's the sound of that. I think someone wanted to see. Yeah, I'm getting lost with all the stuff I need to look at. So I wanted to see these strings as well. So it's the same deal here. These have these really cool patches called Performance Legato, which is really like that's what I'm using for my legato because it's kind of smart. It'll sort of detect how you're playing it and adjust accordingly. So one thing that's cool, it seems to strike with a staccato, which is great, and then go into a legato. And if you do a really soft velocity for your next note, it'll do that portamento slide. But if you do it harder, it'll do like a bow change, and if you do it like sort of medium, it'll just do fingered legato, and then it'll do like sort of slurred samples for runs, which is great. It makes the run sound super realistic. So with this one patch, you can kind of cover a lot of ground. Yeah, I think that's pretty self-explanatory. It sounds great. And then you've got those for, you know, violins 1, 2, violas, cello, and basses. But you've also got like a ton of articulations here, stuff that you may never use, but it's great to have if you want to do some pretty detailed stuff. Like as you can see per section, I'm really just using 3 patches here, and that's more than enough for this. But you know, depending on what you're doing, you'll have more. And someone wanted to check out the brass. We'll check that out real quick, and then we'll get back to the project. I think the horns on this sound really good. Like they've got these 2 horns, which in their performance legato mode, yeah. And that's like their softer version. Then they've got this 6 horn section for their or phalanx, however you say it. But this is really aggressive. Anyways, that should give you an idea of the sound. These are all recorded in the same hall. But for this project, we're using Cinebrass, obviously. So that by comparison, you are getting like a similar sound. Cinebrass horns do sound great though, don't they? All right, I'll let this play and I'll look at more questions. Oh, important question. Someone was asking about Final Fantasy 15. I love it. God damn, that game is great. I was really disappointed with 13, but I love 15. It's so different and it's really genuinely awesome. So yeah, we're getting a question about the computer specs that you need. So I've been actually using something that kind of makes it less taxing on my RAM, but more taxing on the CPU, and that's this thing up here, the Contact Memory Server, because all these things are Contact libraries. These are all just running in Contact. These would be much larger, as you'd see, like, you know, I don't know if you can see, but like, let's take a look. Let's take a look at just like one of these patches, like, you know, a legato patch would be a good way to look. So this, that would be 10 gigs for this one patch. That's a huge amount. And now, how do I only have this footprint of 2.68 gigs for the entire project? It's actually streaming from solid state drives, and that's kind of the way to do it nowadays. It just takes more CPU, but you know what? Computers nowadays have a lot more CPU than they used to, and the SSDs have a fast enough transfer rate that you can just stream it. So all this is actually just streaming from my SSDs, and you don't really, I mean, I bet like, you know, a modern laptop could probably run most of this, if not all of this, with the new processors that are out. So it's kind of cool that all this stuff's pretty accessible. If we take a look at my mixer, because all this stuff sounds kind of great out of the box, I don't really have to do a lot of stuff. I think the only thing that has like substantial processing on it is Action Strikes, which my Percussion, where I've got EQ, I've got a limiter to just kind of basically acting as just as a way to level it up a little bit and control the peaks. Oh, you can hear my timpani there. Yeah. But yeah, because the sounds are all great. This is the great thing about orchestral stuff. Like with metal, this stuff would be filled with plugins. It's all about sort of mitigating disaster, whereas here you could just sort of tweak things to sound nicer. It's pretty wonderful. But yeah, to answer your question, you'd be surprised with what you can get away with probably the laptop that you own nowadays. You just need the libraries, and those aren't exactly inexpensive. But, you know, I've thrown a lot of money into these, but I love them. God, it makes me so happy. I'm probably going to do One Wing Angel next, so let's see what we got. Take a few more. Let's see if there's anything else going. If not, I will just play it through one last time for you guys to watch, and then we'll call it. All right, these comments don't even look like they've refreshed there. Go figure. What made me want to cover this? I don't know. I just felt like doing it one day. If you have the tools to do it, I don't know. It was just something that one day I was like, I wonder if I could get away with doing it, and it was kind of a good exercise. In transcribing these tracks by ear, do you find the process challengingly aiding in your synthesis, sound designing, as well as arranging and mixing? Yeah, I mean, like, it's definitely good for ear training. It's definitely challenging in a few ways, but it's fun. It's something, you know, my ear is all I've got. I don't really know theory or anything sort of traditional like that. So I do realize that my one strength is my ear, and I feel like this kind of stuff keeps it sharp, allows me to just hone those skills, the things that I already, you know, have a leg up with. So I think it's important, and I enjoy doing stuff like this too. It's very satisfying when it's done, you know, or when you figure it out. 750, not inexpensive. Yeah, that's like for like one of these. These things add up fast, buddy. Do I work with the velocity a lot? Yes, absolutely. But also the CC1 control, which I have mapped to the slider on my keyboard. That's actually what the will control the volume on, say, like a legato patch like this. That's just this because here the velocity will actually just change the kind of articulation that you're getting, or the kind of legato that you're triggering. So you have to kind of know how each patch reacts and is programmed, and then program that accordingly, which is why it can take a little bit of time. Favorite Final Fantasy VII song? I'd have to say probably One Wing Angel is pretty damn incredible. I think I haven't tackled that yet because I'm kind of afraid that I wouldn't be able to figure it out, but that might be the next challenge. That might be what I have to do. What do you guys think? I'm on a Mac for this. I'm using like a Retina iMac, like one of the later ones. But I gotta say, Apple's been kind of making me want to switch to PC lately, and I got a gaming PC. I'm actually curious to see how all this stuff would run on PC, because my PC is definitely a lot more powerful. So we will see. Did I cross-reference with the original to see how different mine and the original was? No, I had the original up at the top, and I was referencing it constantly to try to pick out what each instrument, or what I thought each instrument was supposed to be doing. Like that's basically how I ended up with this, which is why it was very time consuming. And as I was saying earlier, it's all stuff that was they're all sounds that you kind of have to guess. Like, I think that's a string section, I think that's an oboe, but I'm not entirely sure. So there was a lot of stuff where I had to play around for a bit to be like, okay, I think that's what he was going for. But yeah, like definitely that's how I did. I wouldn't be able to do this just sort of from memory. Definitely not that good. So playing this, okay, I guess a lot of people haven't seen this yet. You know what? I'm going to just play this through one last time, and then I'm going to have to go. But yeah, we'll just do that. Thank you for watching, guys. I appreciate it. Uh-oh. All right, guys. Well, that's it. For those who missed, I know that there's a rolling amount of people who are just coming in right at the end and who are like, "Oh man, I can't believe I missed the whole thing." So, what I did strategically this time was also record this with ScreenFlow, which is why it was hiccuping there in the middle. Sorry about that. But this will be up on YouTube in full quality very, very soon. I'm going to upload it as soon as I'm done streaming. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, guys. I will see you next time.